Tonight, we begin a new community commitment, Guarding the Guardsmen, telling the stories of those who serve our country but are cast aside when they need help. The Nevada National Guard calls the case of Sergeant First Class Allison Bailey, quote, complex and extremely sad, end quote. Her family believes she paid the ultimate price for military disorder.
What happened to Sergeant First Class Allison Bailey should not have happened.
When I met with her, she was a broken woman.
Allison Bailey heard the call of duty before she was legally old enough to answer it.
I had to sign for her to go in. She spent the next almost 17 years in the Nevada Army National Guard, half of her life.
During her service, she became a mother to 2 boys while rising through the ranks on a stellar career path.
She was an outstanding, highly decorated E7. Wonderful reviews.
Documented as a natural-born leader with unlimited potential who should be promoted ahead of her peers.
I can honestly say that Miss Bailey was a well-regarded member of the Nevada National Guard for more than a decade.
But the last 2 years of her time in the Nevada Guard redefined what she
I am proud of our service.
And her family knew the military to be.
I was the first female in our family. I have 5 brothers that served. And Allison was the first to join the Army. I was in the Air Force. We have 4 Air Force, 1 Navy, 1 Marine.
Doing what's right is drilled into those who serve, which is why Allison sought to right wrongs she encountered in her chain of command. In September of 2020, she initiated the process of filing an Inspector General complaint for bullying and a toxic work environment, telling her mother,
I should set the example for other soldiers to see that you can file a complaint and have it resolved.
Instead, the opposite happened when in January of 2021, the Nevada National Guard turned the tables, launching a misconduct investigation against Allison called an Article 15. She chronicled the process in a video diary.
That I attempted to initiate a IG investigation against her and her behavior towards me. And they still let her request and open a IG complaint against me, which is not right in any sense.
The Guard claims the 2 investigations were unrelated.
This Article 15 was based on EO complaints from subordinates of Miss Bailey that were filed through the Equal Opportunity Office.
Former JAG officer Dr. Dwight Sterling sees it differently.
I am shocked and horrified that the Nevada Guard treated a senior sergeant in this manner.
Sterling served in the California National Guard, teaches law at USC, and founded the nonprofit Center for Law and Military Policy.
When you have a military member who comes forward with what is essentially whistleblowing, with a claim of misconduct or wrongdoing, and they filed an action with the Inspector General, what is supposed to happen is a cone of protection is supposed to be placed over them, and there should be no adverse action, because they are now a protected party.
Instead of protection, Allison was placed under investigation for violations including showing disrespect toward a superior officer, failure to obey an order, mistreating subordinate soldiers, and making false statements.
What is most kind of telling to me is that there had been no accusations of this type until she brought forth her charges, until she blew the whistle.
Allison's story took a darker turn when she inadvertently disclosed a secret she held closely for several months to a mandatory reporter in the Guard, revealing that she'd been sexually assaulted twice by a fellow Guardsman in May and June of 2020. We are not naming that soldier because he was never charged with a crime.
My daughter never intended to come forward and tell anyone about that because she knew the way the military treated sexual assault. So she files the sexual assault complaint because she's told basically, you've made this comment to a mandatory reporter You need to file or we will file.
Sex assault allegations in Nevada Guard units are referred out for investigation to the State Department of Public Safety. DPS received Allison's case on February 2nd of 2021.
They conduct, in my opinion, a partial investigation.
This DPS report shows the accused claimed the sex was consensual, and as proof, he provided screenshots he said were from a sexually charged text conversation with Allison. Detectives sought to authenticate the screenshots with the original text messages.
They asked the accused to voluntarily allow his phone to be checked. First he gives consent, and then he says, no, you know what, I don't want you to check my phone. So they get a search warrant. They secure his phone, but he does not give them the passcode to his phone.
DPS had to do a forensic download, which the report states was unable to recover the text messages between the accused and Bailey. Just over 4 months later, on June 9th, DPS closed the investigation, citing insufficient evidence for prosecution.
They just want you to shut up and go away.
Navy veteran Sandy Duhack is a military sex assault survivor and vice president of the nonprofit advocacy group Veteran Sisters.
So they said that this evidence wasn't good enough to convict him, but it was good enough to destroy her life and her career.
The Nevada Guard promoted the alleged attacker in September, 1 month after the DPS investigation was closed. The very same month, Allison's rank was reduced from E7 to E5, and she was ultimately demoted to E1.
To go from a senior sergeant to, a private, which is an E1, which is just a guy off the street or a woman off the street who take the oath, and they're 18 years old. I mean, that's the lowest rank in the military.
The demotion essentially erased her years of service.
It is unheard of.
And marked the end of Allison's military career. In January, she was kicked out of the Nevada National Guard with an other than honorable discharge for what they deemed a pattern of misconduct, including engaging in inappropriate relationships with multiple junior soldiers.
Say that she got kicked out because of an inappropriate relationship with, I'm not going to say his name, but with the man that you're talking about. That's factually not true.
A final Nevada Guard document in Allison's misconduct case, which lays out the basis for separation, lists 22 allegations. Number 1 is sex with a subordinate soldier, naming the very man Allison had accused of rape. It also claims Allison was guilty of multiple counts of 5 violations, including disrespect of superior officer, cruelty and maltreatment of subordinates, and disorder prejudicing good order and discipline. The Guard alleges Allison was sexually harassing multiple lower-ranked soldiers, and that she often arrived to work late, left early, would not show up to work, and did not do her job. We spoke to the military attorney assigned to defend Allison. He resigned from the Nevada National Guard over how Allison's case and some others he worked on were handled. In an appeal filed on Allison's behalf, the attorney argued she was never put on notice or given warnings for the allegations against her. He wrote, "It has always been the hallmark of these kinds of actions in the Nevada Guard that counseling precede punishment. The failure to follow that course of action in this case is inexcusable."
The last video she sent me literally was, "Mom, I'm going to spend the rest of my life working on this because it's wrong."
But the rest of Allison's life came much too soon.
She died on March 4th, 6 weeks after her discharge.
Her boys, 15-year-old Colby and now 11-year-old Caleb, found their mother collapsed on the floor in their Las Vegas home.
They're trying to figure out why they miss their mom. So
Allison's death was preceded by a steep and swift mental and physical decline that was due in part to confusion about her access to health care. As our coverage continues in the coming weeks, we take an in-depth look at the factors that contributed to her downward spiral. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.